construction managers come through. They would go and get involved in the process fairly early, and then they would go and, along with the architects and along with the project manager, go and estimate what they view as, at a certain point in design, the cost of that building to be. The good part about that is they're involved in the process. They're the guys that are going to build it. So you're getting the value of their estimating expertise, and they're going to have to step up to the plate and sign a contract saying this is how much they're willing to guarantee. So at that point in time, if, for example, it were over based on that estimate, everybody would have to go back to the drawing board, literally, and say, how are we going to, and I don't particularly care for the word so much, but value engineer the building so that we're able to get the costs in line with what the budget is. So that's a first level of protection. The second level of protection is that there's built-in contingencies into the price that's been presented this evening, both from a design and market pricing standpoint, as well as a construction contingency that the construction manager would carry. And if that money isn't spent because the contingency is not required, then that money goes back to the town. Similarly, there's also an owner's contingency that's built in for unforeseen conditions. For example, if we ran into some type of hazardous material that no one could have foreseen, we have done hazardous inventories of the buildings, but for something you don't see, we have those contingencies built in.
And my second question was, when the schools are being built, how the students will be, what will be the arrangement for students to, we have go to other town for middle and high school students, or?
The plan right now is that while the new high school and the common use facilities are being built, it's going to be built between the two buildings so that the students would remain in the two buildings. When the high school is completed, we would move the high school students into the new high school. The middle school students would go to the old high school until the middle school was renovated. And at that time, when that's finished, we'd move them back and we'd demolish the high school, and that would finish the project. So students will not be asked to go, they'll remain in the existing buildings.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have two unrelated questions. The first is for Representative Jones. I would like to understand what the assurance is that the MSBA will provide the reimbursement to the project if approved at this time, and should it not be approved, is there any chance for reimbursement in the future? That's the first question.
Probably a long answer to a short question. First of all, I would say is the track record we have in North Reading. We did the bachelor school and we did it in a window when we weren't eligible for reimbursement, but we set it up in a way to be able to go back, and the town pursued it and was successful. So I would say, we have a very good track record as a town with MSBA, new MSBA, if you will, since the law was changed in 2004. I think the MSBA's track record is that everybody they've approved has gotten their money. So their track record is that if the town follows through on its piece of it, MSBA will absolutely follow with their piece of it. I was with the new Catherine Craven, who has been the executive director for a number of years since the law was changed, is moving on. Tomorrow is her last day. I was with the new interim executive director today at a project in Middleton that came in under budget and ahead of schedule. And they basically came to town meeting with their checkbook and said, if you approve this, you will be there with a check. And we're ready to go. And sort of the caveat to that is that if you choose not to go forward, there are any number of other communities that are ready to move forward and take your line in the queue. So this very much is a dialogue about what the town wants to do. The state money will absolutely be there. They're only sort of allotting as much money as they can go write a check for. And that's why they have, as I talked about, a very interactive process about what the design is going to be, what the costs are going to be, because they want to be very judicious in the commitments they make, despite all the applications and interests they have out there. So we have a tremendous opportunity to absolutely get this state money, which will absolutely be there, and B, if we don't take this opportunity, somebody else will. Now, obviously that presents a challenge because the state money is guaranteed. There's got to be a discussion about what we do as a town level, and maybe as an editorial comment. Being involved with the bachelor school project, being involved with the elementary school project in Middleton today, and the Reading school projects and Linfield projects, this really is a debate, and again, this is an editorial comment on my part. is really a debate about the legacy the current generation wants to leave and can afford to leave to the future generation. And I realize that's maybe a different debate for every individual in this room and in the community, but that is very much what this discussion is about. I know the education that I received in this town, having gone through the entire school system from elementary to high school, was very much a decision that previous generations left to me. And this discussion we're having tonight and the community at large is about what we want to, what we need to, and what we can't afford to leave to our future generation. So that's my editorial comment. Hopefully that answers the question too.
Thank you for,
Last, I just want to point out one thing too. From the time that our submission is approved, and I'm confident it will be approved by the MSBA in January, we have 120 days to get the funding for this project. If we don't get funding from the town's contribution in 120 days, we lose out, and somebody else is going to step into our shoes and apply for the funds. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that. Marcy, I'm sorry, go ahead.
thank you, that's very important information. My next question, I suppose, is probably for the architect. What kind of wastewater treatment is currently planned as part of the level that you're at in the schematic design?
We actually have a wastewater treatment engineer that would probably better be able to answer that question, but the requirement is based on the number of students in the building, the state mandated flow per student. I'm not exactly sure what the specific design of that is, but suffice it to say that whatever is put in place is something that will have to be vetted with the town and will have to be vetted with DEP as well.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Guy Lento, I live right here on Oakdale Road. I think my question is for Chris, the construction service guy. Unemployed in the town, looking at this awesome project, construction worker. Are you going to put any provisions in the specs that maybe a small percentage of the townies could maybe have a chance to get on, have some equal opportunity employment on this project? Is that being written into the contract, I guess?
That's for Chris Simler, our project manager. Chris?
Yes, I would say right now we could accommodate. There's a lot of different clauses out there. Like the City of Boston has a local residency requirement. There's WVE, MBE requirements. So right now, since we're creating this package, we can write those into the spec. Some of this Chapter 149A process, though, with the file subtrades may preclude that. But when the CM comes on board and he has to hire, we can put that as one of the selection criteria. How are you going to use local businesses and local opportunities? Can't really demand it, but we can have them, and if we select them, that will be one of the evaluation criteria.
Excellent question, by the way. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi. The current design, is that based on today's current enrollment, or is this more or less being planned for future enrollment? Because it'd be a shame to have this project finished and then it's kind of outdated by the time it actually is finished. Kind of like, the Big Dig, it's costing a lot more money than was expected, and now it's an outdated project that doesn't help anybody. And that's basically my biggest concern. And then one other part to it is financially, with the state involved, there's generally always overages. Is the state only going to pay the $50 million, or is there going to be more of a split? Are they going to pay a higher percentage if there is an overage?
First of all, I don't know you, but please don't compare us to the Big Dig again. The first question, I'm going to have Superintendent Willis answer, because that's a very interesting story as to how we got to the enrollment number of 740. Kathy?
Thank you. Yes, the MSBA has a very specific criteria process that we need to go through to determine design enrollment, and that's what they call it, design enrollment. And what they do is they take a look at a whole host of factors, including build out in the town, birth history, projections 20 years out, and they have lots of formulas that they apply to all of this data that they collect. So they came back with a number that was a little less than what we had hoped for, particularly for the high school, because when we started this project, it was taking a look just at the high school. And so high school principal John Bernard and I had a conference call with the design enrollment specialist with the MSBA, and I believe Representative Jones was also in the building during this conference call in Boston when this took place. And we negotiated, trying to increase that enrollment to get it up just a little higher. And we were, I am pleased to say, successful to do so. And so, again, going through all of the criteria that's required by MSBA and taking a look at projections 20 years out, we believe that this building will more than accommodate the future enrollment for the town of North Reading.
We actually did work very closely with the MSBA to get that enrollment figure up as well. As Kathy said, it was lower than that at first. The second question is about the reimbursement, I think. And again, the reimbursement figure is just what Don Kelleher said it was. I think it's 51.5% or thereabouts. And there's a formula that determines that. And again, I'll ask Chris Simler to just tell you what that formula is as to how we get to that percentage. But that percentage is only of the reimbursable costs. So there are some costs, as Don had also suggested, like the administrative space for the school department and the wastewater treatment plant that are not reimbursable. So you subtract those costs and then take the 51.5% of the balance. But Chris, if you just want to talk briefly about the formula and how we arrived at that number.
Yeah, I can talk general terms. When the MSBA, they start out with a base number based on the town's financial status. I don't have it in front of me, I'm sorry to know, but then there's incentives. As you move up, getting LEED certified could give you 2 additional reimbursement points. The building committee chose to go the CM and risk delivery method, which is highly recommended by the MSBA, so they're giving us another 1%. Wayne Hardacker did an incredible job maintaining this facility, and the MSBA recognized that, and out of 2 points, I think we got 1.9 or 1.8. That's unheard of, so Wayne personally, that helped add to the process. So when you'll see this when the override vote comes, there'll be a chart showing exactly how it adds up and the pieces and the opportunities, but we're taking advantage of everything we can to get the maximum reimbursement available.
Thank you, Chris. Next question. Yes.
Hello, I'm Beth Thompson. Listening to this plan, this is the largest building that's available or will be available in North Reading. And if we put that in the context of planning for the next 50 years, we can anticipate some natural disasters like a hurricane, like a flood, that are going to require evacuating our population to some safe place. And it seems like the design here is ideally located for accommodating that kind of emergency. I wonder what thought has been given to actually being able to utilize these structures in the event of a major emergency. Thank you.
Thank you. I will admit I hadn't thought about that, but it's a good question. Anybody want to take a crack at that? Go ahead, somebody wants to take a crack. Go ahead, Chris.
In Massachusetts and throughout the country, there's certain designations of emergency shelters. And with those comes certain criteria from the national level to the state level, where you have to have so many cots available, and it really becomes expensive in storage. What we've done on other projects is we work with the committee and the architect to size the emergency generators. Instead of just evacuating the school in an emergency in certain lights, maybe we can connect it to the kitchen, we can connect it to the gymnasium and the HVAC system. So it's not a designated emergency shelter, but it has the availability to accommodate the need of emergency. So those are things the building committee we would work with them on.
I don't think we have to wait 50 years. We're losing our power about every 3 weeks, so that's a very good question. As an aside, too, this facility, it's a school facility, and it's a school facility first and foremost, and that's why it's being built. But this facility is going to service the entire community. I mean, things, town meetings and group gatherings, and we've already worked very closely with some of the youth groups to make sure that the adequate space for youth sports and things like that. So this facility is going to be for schools primarily, but it will service the entire community for a long time to come. Yes, there's the mic. Deanna.
My question is for Michael Bitto. Michael,